11 years old, living in New York City. I went to see the Broadway show Barnum. And right outside the theater, before the show began, there were cast members doing fun things to create a circus atmosphere out there. And one of the things that they were doing was handing balloon animals out to kids. I got a giraffe. Well, that giraffe had an impact on me. I took that home, I untwisted it, I retwisted it. I had the greatest time with that, totally fascinated by the things that I could do with balloons. And that fascination kept with me for a while. When I was in high school, I used to perform on street corners. I would do magic in Central Park. And I learned very quickly that the key to success working as a street performer was not necessarily having the best show in the world, it was knowing how to draw a crowd. And I would take out balloons, blow them up, make something really cool, and people would gather around me, and as soon as I had a large enough crowd around me, I'd go into the magic act. I eventually learned that it wasn't necessary to do the magic at all. The balloons, if the balloons could attract their attention, the balloons could keep their attention. And this still kept me going for a few more years. In college, I would continue to perform in restaurants, birthday parties, and the balloons were the biggest thing for me. And I wanted to take that further. I wanted to learn more about the balloons. And back in 1992, before most people had heard of the internet, I decided to turn to the internet and create a place where I could share, and created an online forum where people could give and take, and I learned a whole lot. What I had done, though, it turns out, was formed an online community. So nearly 18 years after I did that, we have a thriving artist community online that does nothing but talk about balloons. An idea was planted. I knew right then that I could build communities with balloons. Now that sounds like a pretty unusual statement to make, but well, my medium is pretty unusual. This is my palette. And you laugh, but it's kind of funny. The reason you chuckle about it is that you don't normally think of balloons as an artistic medium. We give pencils and crayons to little kids and they make things. You say create and they do. If I give balloons to you now, since you weren't taught they were an artistic medium, you're actually more willing to pick them up than, say, pencils and crayons. Because most people are afraid that if they create something with a pencil, it's going to be really ugly or they're embarrassed by it. That gives me an opportunity to place balloons in your hands and give you a chance to try things, because balloons are toys. Everybody plays with toys. And the other end of the spectrum, there are those that are trained in art that look at this and say, but what am I supposed to do with it? And it's the people that are trained in art that I've got to convince anything that was previously done with other media can be done with balloons as well. So what this does is it kind of levels the playing field between those that are art trained and those that are not art trained. And I want to point out that I'm referring to art trained and not art trained. I'm not talking about artists and non-artists because I don't think there's such a distinction. Anybody can create given the opportunity. And an example of that, in 1998 I was invited to Tokyo, Japan by Fuji Television to teach balloon art to a bunch of celebrities on camera with the clocks ticking. This was reality television a decade ago. I needed to teach them something and get it all done, the project completed in the time that we had allowed. Now, what I was asked to make was a Nabuta, which is a traditional festival float depicting a brave warrior. And I had done all of my research before going there, but I knew absolutely nothing about Japanese culture, and frankly, what I designed was all wrong. But it turned out this was a good thing, because when I got there, my team, and it became a team, it wasn't just a crew working under me following my lead, they became collaborators in this whole project. And again, the community idea grew. And to give you an idea of how strong that community was, keep in mind that I spoke no Japanese other than what I could find in the phrase book in my pocket, and no one on my crew spoke English. The balloons, the art, became the universal translator that made it possible for this project to happen. So we continue. Another project, a year and a half later in Belgium. With a friend of mine, Royal Sorel, we set a world record. Now that Japanese project was 15,000 balloons. This project in Belgium ended up using 40,000 balloons. Now what we had done was we announced to the world we were going to do this, And all I had to do was mention it, and 45 artists from around the world volunteered to come and join us and be part of this. And if you think that working in my conditions in Japan, not speaking the language was hard, imagine now on the floor of this gym, there were 7 languages being spoken among the people from 11 different countries. Again, the balloons were the unifying device, the art that we're able to discuss and work together to make this all happen. Now, I had so much fun working with that, I decided it was time to make things even bigger. Not bigger, larger scale, but more dramatic and involve more people. Fantastic Flying Octopus. This was something that flew close to home for me, over Sodus Bay. The idea now was to get community involved in the project. Local community members placed balloons in their hands. Now, it was just a few artists that designed this, but in the end, the cool thing was we had hundreds of people locally that wanted to help us assemble this in its final launching place in a ball field in the middle of Sodus Point. We built this 3/4 of a mile away from the launch site, which meant we had a parade and had a chance to really involve everybody. Now we're talking 20,000 balloons, 10,000 cubic feet of helium to bring our pilot, John Ninamiya, over the bay. And as a skilled pilot, he actually successfully, as planned, landed on a boat in the middle of the water. So we got everybody involved in as many ways as we could, and that brings us to more current projects, Balloon Manor. The silly, creepy, funny, weird, slightly haunted castle made entirely out of balloons, 10,000 square feet, 100,000 balloons, 10 rooms. It's a half-hour tour to walk through the entire thing, and we've had an opportunity to do this 4 times because of the popularity of it. And the best part is that we involved a lot more people now. We had 65 artists join us from around the world, doing all sorts of things, all sorts of various art pieces. We had 350 community volunteers take part every time we did it. And I'm not talking about just, specific artists, balloon artists. I'm talking about artists in every discipline you can imagine. We have balloon artists, graphic artists, musicians. I had a composer that wrote a score for the Manor every year that we were out there. And we've found ways of involving as many people from the community as we can, not, again, just people with specific things in mind, but we even wanted to bring little kids into it. Now, in a project this scale, you might wonder, how can we do that safely? Well, one of the things we did was we invited kids to draw pictures of what they thought should appear in a haunted house. And then the artist crew turned those pieces, those kids' dreams, into sculptures within the manor. So who's involved? Like I said, we had a lot of people involved in this. And we never considered who was artists, who were the artists, who weren't the artists. If you had an idea, you could speak. If you knew something about balloons, great, we gave you a harder job. Otherwise, we taught you what was needed. The ultimate community project, Balloon Manor, built by the community, for the community to enjoy, and even managed to raise over $80,000 in the 4 years we did it. This is what community is about. Bringing people together, working together to create an absolutely phenomenal project. And I want to see more communities doing projects like this in the future.